work, but you make it look good, brother.
Thank you, man.
You're welcome.
Appreciate both of them.
So we're like now, it says we're live on
Yeah, we just went live on Facebook.
So from here on out,
you got to be good.
You have to be a professional. No, not the Shane Scott Award tonight to anyone.
No, not tonight.
We'll tell you about that one later, bro. Do you know Shane Scott?
I know of him.
That's Maxine Waters' pastor.
Huh?
He's from Richmond. That's Maxine Waters' pastor.
She belonged to Macedonia.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, yes. He's from Richmond. He's a son of A.H. Newman. Wow. And he got some Newman in him too.
He does. Wow.
Yeah. You can't spend much time around A.H. Newman and get called under him.
Right.
And not, I mean, that's Newman, right?
Now the Newman that was in Richmond,
where Bernstein's at right now.
Oh, he was the chairman of the board under Dr. Henry J. Lodge.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, he knows how to run a board meeting. It's his way on the highway.
Right? Shut up or get out.
Yeah.
And make the ladder very quick. Because I got something to talk about. That dude, man. But that's who I grew up seeing all the time, right? They sent me down to Bishop, man.
Right. Oh, yeah. He was a strong supporter of Bishop.
Yeah. You going to Bishop. Yeah. Is there any other? No, there's not. Watch us take up this money for you. Yes, sir. Right? Some good dudes, man. Good dudes. And so, Perk, who we got on? Jesus, or we got Jesus on tonight, or Jose?
We got Jose.
Okay. Sometimes we have Jesus on. Well, actually, somebody said we always have Jesus on, right? Okay.
We on live in 2 minutes. Got 2 minutes.
His name is Jesus.
Yeah. Alrighty.
How about them Cardinals, man? Oh, we got 60 seconds.
They finally won again. My wife was teasing me. I said, look on the phone. We were driving. I said, find out if they won. She said, who you think won? I was afraid to say. And I said, the Giants. She said, no, the Cardinals won. But they hit a skid.
Yeah, Murray is a different kind of quarterback, man.
He's a baseball player. That's what he is.
He doesn't like to be hit, but I saw where somebody knocked the devil out of him today.
Yeah, oh, really?
Oh, really? I got to see that because he's that big.
Yeah, 3 of them jumped on it.
All right, we live, fellas. Here we go.
Led by Pastor A.L. Perkins and located at 4113 Telegraph Avenue in Oakland, California. Visit their website at www.harmonymdc.org. Visit them on Facebook at Harmony MD Church or on Instagram at Harmony MDC. Donations are always welcome and help to keep this radio ministry alive. You can donate by going to Givelify on your smartphone or on their Facebook page. Thank you for listening to Harmony Missionary Baptist Church. Tune in every Sunday morning for Morning Manna at 7 a.m. and Sunday evening at 6 p.m. on KEST 1450 and on the web at kestradio.com.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome again to the One More Time broadcast brought to you by the Harmony Church, 4113 Telegraph Avenue in the great city of Oakland. And we're grateful tonight that God has allowed us to come together again on this second Sunday of December 13th. We're able to come to you with the One More Time broadcast, and we give God thanks and praise. We've made it to another week. We are not out of 2020 yet, but we thank him to where he has brought us thus far. We're excited tonight, if you will. We always have great guests with us, and we have another great guest that's blessing us with their presence tonight. I had the privilege, as the majority of probably 90% of our guests, I meet them by being their driver. And I had the privilege to drive this wonderful pastor some years ago, who was a guest for the California State Baptist Convention midwinter board one year in Oakland, California. His name is Dr. Warren Stewart, comes from the great state where when Noah looked out of the ark, he saw Arkansas, if you will. Coffeeville, Arkansas is where he comes from.
Wait a minute, Kansas.
Kansas, okay,
Arkansas.
Kansas. I'm sorry. He's from Kansas. I'm sorry. He's from Kansas. And he's presently pastoring in Arizona at the First Institutional Church, if I'm not mistaken. They're doing a great work. Friends and family, and one more time, listeners and viewers on Facebook, let's have our guest say hello to you tonight, Dr. Warren Stewart, the Bishop alum. Say hello.
Brothers and sisters, it is awesome to be here with you today. Thank you, Pastor Perkins. Thank you, Pastor Robinson. I am humbled and honored to share with you tonight. I'm ready to have this great conversation.
Great. And then always, I'm grateful to have my co-host that's rolling with me. Skarsky had Hutch, Laverne had Shirley, Tonto had a Lone Ranger, Fred had Lamont. Man, I'm Batman and he's Robin. Robin, say hello tonight to the people.
Hello, 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 hello to all of my friends out there in KEST Radio Land, 1190 AM on your AM dial, and those on the Facebook channel. It's so good to be here tonight with a Bishop alum, Dr. Warren H. Stewart Sr., who laid the foundation for us going forward.
Thank you.
Who are at Bishop College. And so he is a great speaker. Listen, I want to get to this conversation, I want to pick his brain. But man, I'm ready to get at it tonight. Let's get down and let's get with it.
So, Dr. Stewart, as we always start off this conversation, this show exists. This show was birthed out of the pandemic, and it's basically called Pastoring Through a Pandemic, Coping with the Crisis. And so my first question to you tonight is, what was your first reaction personally when you first heard about it? Were you on the road? Were you traveling, teaching, preaching, doing a conference or something? What was your first reaction when you, heard about this pandemic?
Do you mean about COVID itself or COVID with me?
Well, no, we'll get to that, but when you heard in general.
Well, I was in San Antonio, Texas, at the Midwinter Board for the Progressive National Baptist Convention Incorporated, and that was in January. And so there was conversation about it, but people were still moving around, and it was something that was happening in China. But that progressed, and by the fourth Sunday in March, my people at First Institutional had started quarantining themselves. They didn't have to have the governor or the mayor, anybody tell them not to come to church. They told themselves not to come to church. Yes, sir. And then it has progressively gotten worse. Then it got better, and now it's gotten worse again, more serious and deadly than it's ever been in the last 12 months.
Yeah. So that's how you dealt with it. Personally, what did you do when you get back to the church? You definitely want to be careful. And
sure.
We're hearing, there was a myth that at first, Black people couldn't get it. I don't know if you remember hearing that one.
Yeah.
There was a lot of things going on, but how did you deal with it from a pastor's point of view with making sure that you put people first,
Yeah, well, one, I tried to become as knowledgeable as possible about it and check with references that I could trust. I'm on the Health Equity Advisory Board for Mayo Clinic, which is one of the greatest hospitals in the world. And so I was able to talk to physicians there and experts. But on the spiritual level, I began to try to make sense of it. especially in March when the governors and our governor began to talk about sheltering in place, and then he shut down the entire state for several weeks, and so we could not go to church, and so the campus was shut down. We had to quickly move to broadcasting from home and away from the church. So, and I tried to make theological sense out of what was going on, and that, you know, and that's how I tried to navigate it at first. Yes, sir.
Kurt.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Stewart, for those insights from your pastoral perspective from Perch. Now, there's something very unique here that you bring to this discussion, because not only did you have to look out the window from the pastorate on this COVID, but you also had to personally look out of the window of being infected by the COVID, and you and your wife.
Yes, yes.
So why don't you walk us through some of that and just kind of tell us what's going down with that?
Sure. Well, my wife and I, we practice what we call holy, healthy, sanitary, sensitive protocols. I mean, we wash our hands, we wore masks, we stayed out of large crowds. So we were doing everything that was right. The church had a small team of 10 that met every Sunday after the shelter in place was lifted. And so we were back at the church, and church was basically the only place where we were going, maybe to the store once a week. And so it was quite a surprise. My wife got sick first. It was in August. And out of caution, we have a protocol that if you or someone in your family gets sick and you don't know what it is, you know, you stay away also. And so I stayed at home with her the first week in August and just seeing about her. And she was bedridden for 11 days. And I had to take her to urgent care. I called her doctor, and the doctor said, there's nothing we can do. She gave a prescription for some cough syrup and said she has to ride it out. Well, about 4 days after being at home with her, I began to cough. I said, uh-oh. And then after coughing, my body began to ache. And then I had some digestive issues. And I said, oh my Lord. And so I actually went to get a COVID test first. And I got a COVID test that morning at Mayo Clinic and was diagnosed by that night, even before my wife was diagnosed. And she got her diagnosis the next day that we both had COVID. So it was, I mean, like, it's like this alien has invaded our body. Mm-hmm. This disease, this virus that has gone all over the world has come to our address. And we were doing everything that was right. And so I was very concerned about Karen because, like I said, she was in the bed and I couldn't get her out of bed, and she had respiratory issues, and I was very concerned about her. Thank God my symptoms lasted about 4 days. And then I was able to come out, and hers lasted longer. Now, the lingering issue we dealt with was fatigue. It drains your strength. And so it took us a month to get our strength back. But we even thank God for that, in light of people I've seen who have had COVID months ago, and they're still dealing with the after effects, or their lives have been permanently changed. And so we saw God's grace overshadowing our lives, even though we had it. But it was interesting. Word got out because I made a statement to the church from this very room, and I, doing pastoral emphases when I was away, I said, well, Pastor Karen and I have COVID-19. And it got out, and a couple of news channels started calling, and newspaper, local newspaper here. And so I actually did some broadcasting via Zoom to help people, because I said, if I've had it and my wife have had it, there's no sense in us trying to keep it a secret. So let's put it out there like you're doing tonight, asking me questions. And they ask questions. And I mean, the overwhelming support. I mean, I can't count the number of people who said they were praying for us, who were concerned about us. Some people were actually shattered. I mean, they couldn't handle their pastor and pastor's wife being ill and COVID attacking them. It was like an enemy had attacked their leadership. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. So in this stage where you are right now, so what's your current, condition? I mean, do you have, antibodies? Can you not get it again? Can you get it again? I mean, what's going on now?
Well, my wife, she found a place where we could get instant test results. So we went 3 weeks ago, and we don't have COVID anymore, but we do have the antibodies. So I tell people I'm like the president, I'm immune, but the scientists and the doctors said that is what do you call it? That's fake news.
Dude, your own herd immunity. Okay, I get it.
Yeah, you can get it again. And I've just heard recently of someone who did get it the second time. But we do have the antibodies, but we continue to do our whole social, not social distancing, but the sanitary sensitive piece. And so we don't take chances. No, it is not anything to play with. This is very real, very serious, and very deadly.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Pastor Perkins?
Pastor, you shared how it affected your family, you personally. You just touched on a little bit how the church kind of responded to you being sick. What, I guess, precautions have you made to try to make sure that the wonderful people you have stewardship over don't end up getting it yourselves? Has your church become a COVID testing site or anything like that?
Yes, sir. We will be having a free COVID test this coming Tuesday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at it's a building on our campus called the Marketplace. And so we partnered with the local health agency. So they're going to come down and do free testing this coming Tuesday and the next Tuesday. We put out a lot of information on it, and then I pulled together what we call a regathering task force. Not a large group, about 9 of us, medical people, people who work for the health department, in education, some young people, a deacon, governor's council member, member of the pastoral leadership team. And so we met over a series of weeks and came up with our FIBC Holy and Healthy Sanitary Sensitive Protocol. And so we have a plan on what to do if somebody comes down with it on the small team that does worship, if somebody comes in as a worshiper and spreads it. So we follow that very closely. As I said a few moments ago, in March, when it started spreading in the United States, we were still having worship on Sunday morning, but I'll never forget, on the fourth Sunday in March, when I arrived at my 7:30 service to preach, you could have slept on any pew. I didn't need to tell the people not to. They self-quarantined themselves and said, "Pastor, see, you don't want to be here." All right, And so kind of hurt my feelings because I I was preparing a message on how to deal with COVID and God being with us. And the Negro said, I don't care what you preach. We're not going to be,
We ain't gonna be with you.
we're not going to
Well,
be
God
with you
is.
in the sanctuary. Thank God we had already been streaming our services live, so that helped us. So what we just had to do was to retool. And so when the governor shut us down for, I would say a couple of months, if not more, we broadcast either from the house, or sometimes I would preach. I would go to different places, like on Palm Sunday, my wife found a field that had a whole bunch of date palms. We set up out there in the field. I had a palm tree behind me, and I preached on Palm Sunday. On Resurrection Sunday, I went back and did something that my late pastor, Dr. Sandy F. Ray, did every Easter at 6 o'clock sunrise. I preached from the baptismal pool. And yes, I'd always wanted to do that, so I did that. And representing the resurrection, etc. And there were 3 of us and that was not live. I actually did that on Saturday night, and something happened. Matter of fact, I did it Saturday morning. Something happened to the tape. I had to come back and do it Saturday night, and I was so mad with my sound people for messing up that tape. But I came back and did it, and that was fine. And then we started coming back maybe 3 months, say in June, with a small team of 10. And then finally, first Sunday in October, we regathered for worship. So we've had worship in the sanctuary live, 7:30, 11 o'clock, since the first Sunday in October. And I guess we average about 100 people between both services. I mean, first Sunday is always the largest attendance, but again, our people have been very supportive financially and in other ways, but they're not coming back to church. The majority have not come back to church, but I felt there were some people that wanted to come back, and I didn't want to deprive them. So we have, like I said, we call it a holy, healthy, sanitary, sensitive worship environment. We require masks throughout the service. We take temperatures at the door. We have the sanctuary set up where nobody's within 6 feet of each other unless you come in as a family. It's every other pew. We are very strict on that. We will if somebody takes off their mask in worship, our volunteers will kind of kindly go to them, tap them on the shoulder, please put that mask back on. And so we've had no incident since the first Sunday in October. And so we call it hybrid worship. So simultaneously, we provide in-person worship for those who feel comfortable in coming back and will adhere to the protocol. And then we have the virtual worship for the majority of our members who just feel I'm not ready to come back.
Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it first on the One More Time broadcast. It's called hybrid worship, simultaneously, where they are worshiping and virtually worshiping, hybrid worship. Here's my question to you, Dr. Sterling.
Yes, sir.
And I know as different regulations flow for different states, ours, we're totally different from, as we talk to different pastors on a weekly basis. It's amazing that we hear everyone saying, well, we've been in church when, we haven't really had the opportunity to really come together like other states. Now, this is what I would love to hear.
Sure.
How do you, in a safe way, partake of the Lord's Supper and do with your giving? Do you still pass the tray around?
No, sir. No, sir. No, sir.
How do you deal with that?
No, I was just joking. Go ahead and answer that.
All right. Great questions, Pastor Perkins. All right. When it comes to communion, At the 11 o'clock service, even before COVID, it was what we call our, quote, contemporary service. It was a little bit shorter, did not have a choir. The choir sang at 7:30. So we were already giving out the communion packages, you know, the ones that are packaged in little plastic. So what we do now, and when people come in, they are handed one by a deacon or a volunteer who has gloves on, so they've never been touched by the human hand. They are given that. Then toward the end of the worship, after I've done the message and invitation, we go through the process of taking the Lord's Supper. And so nobody's touching anything with human hands. So that's how we do the Lord's Supper. And we were open a few Fridays and Saturdays for people to drive by if they wanted to pick up the communion and even take it at home. But not a lot of people did that for us. And our church down the street, my Methodist brother, he had between 200 and 300 people to come down to pick up. So I thought our people would do it. But what we had been doing since the first Sunday in April is telling people, use what you have. If you don't have grape juice or unleavened bread, use whatever you have. And some of them were very glad to hear that. and so they have been using whatever they have to drink of the fruit of the vine and to take of the unleavened bread. It might have been a roll, it might have been a cinnamon roll or whatever, but because the sacrament, of course, is just a symbol. So we don't believe in transubstantiation like our Catholic brothers and sisters, that it's body and blood of Christ. It is a symbol. So again, now that we're back in worship, again, we pass those out, and they throw those little plastic things away as they leave. Now on the offering, yes, the offering, you can't be passing around envelopes. So we have removed all envelopes out of the pews. If you want an envelope, you can ask for one as you come in. So we have been and most of our giving has come through giving online, text to give, giving on our FIBC app. Some people still mail. And then we invite people who want to just drop it by during the week. Our campus is closed, but our staff is back on campus. So there's somebody there Tuesday through Friday from about 9 until 5. And so that they can drop it by. I was one of those who had never given online before. You know, it said bring the tithe. It didn't say send the tithe. It said bring the tithe. But they took my envelopes. So after they took my envelopes, I either had a choice of writing the check and giving it to somebody. And so I started going online, my wife and I said, well, look at here. Well, this is all right. I just go in line and it takes my bank, my check number, my routing number, my account number. I put in how much to give, push the button, and they send me a receipt instantaneously. So I'm changing that Malachi 3:10. Send the tithes into the store.
He said, I'm changing it. I'm going to do a transliteration here.
Yeah.
This will be my footnote.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
First of all, did you say, Perk, did he say cinnamon roll?
Yes. Some people took.
I wrote that down. I was like, cinnamon roll.
Let me tell you something before you ask your question. Some people have taken advantage of this COVID, and they doggone had a Lord's Supper every night. Somebody often as I do it, as often, and they got Stella Rose and some folks communion. I bet you Stella Rose stock went up real good.
Taking pictures of what they were doing and were sending it. They put it on social media. It's first Sunday. This is my communion with a Hennessy sitting right there.
The Hennessy.
They weren't doing that for real. They were just playing.
Jack Daniels, you know.
They just playing.
Finally got Jack saved.
Yeah, finally got him saved. Thanks to COVID-19.
COVID.
I have a question I'd like to ask.
Yes, sir.
And that is that if I send you my resume, I got a couple of good schools on there. Do you think you can get me on the board of the Mayo Clinic? I heard that. Well, did you hear that, Perk?
I heard it.
You heard that? Well,
Yeah.
I'm on the board of the Mayo Clinic, and so I went there and got my results like in 5 minutes.
What you don't know, Curtis, is listen, let me tell you something. There was at least three men. You know how you say that's the man? Well, Dr. Stewart was definitely one of the top 3 men. And when you speak of Phoenix, you speak of Dr. Stewart. Now,
Yes,
my
you do.
buddy who unfortunately passed away, the late Bishop Alexis Thomas,
Yeah.
who's a good friend of mine, he was one of those that's the man. This is like the number 2 man right here that we talking to. When you talk about Phoenix, you got to talk about Dr. Stewart. You cannot mention the city, cannot mention church without talking about First Institutional. How long you been to church, sir?
I'm finishing my 43rd and a half year. At the end of this month, it'll be 43 and a half years.
So when I started preaching, you started pastoring. Actually, you was pastoring before I was preaching a little bit. So you say he number 2, Perk. So who number 1?
Well, God is the Alpha and Omega, so we just keep.
Okay.
Jesus Christ.
I wanted to stay strictly in the level of anthropomorphism here, and so I wanted to stick with a graven image. So
They had a seasoned stage.
the statue.
I don't know his name, Dr. Stewart, but you had a seasoned sage.
Oh, Dr. Black. He's still living. Dr. Bernard Black.
Yeah, that's him.
He is 93 and is still pastoring.
Still pastoring. Yeah, that's him.
Now, he's been closed also since March. I call him from time to time. He just sent me a note. He said, "Boy, it just makes me feel good for you to remember an old man like me." But he is our elder statesman.
Right.
There are 3 of us who are still pastoring, who were pastoring when I came. Dr. Black was there. I think he's in his 55th year. There's another gentleman named Johnson. He must be like 53 or something, or 50. And I come in at 43.5 years at the end of this month. But
Alexis would have been right behind you. He would have been right behind you. Alexis would have been right behind you too.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's take a break real quick. Jose, go ahead and take us out, and we'll be right back.
Awesome.
Going well, sir. Going well.
All right. Well, I hope so. I don't want to disappoint.
Oh man, this is a great one, man. We got to get you on K. Oh, I'm sorry, I can't say that. The radio station. We have to expand your conversation, sir.
Okay.
It is worthy of such.
Well,
Man, did you ever write a book about the MLK?
I certainly did.
Shoot, man. See, I should have already read that.
For more information,
What's the name of the book, sir?
Oh Lord, Victory Together for Martin Luther King Jr. Yeah, it was published in 2015, but that's my recollection, like a memoir of all that happened, all I went through for the 6.5 years we fought for it. But the book that I'm most elated about was my doctoral project, which is, and it was put into a book. It was five printings, Interpreting God's Word in Black Preaching, and it deals with hermeneutics in Black preaching. And so Judson Press published that first time back in '84, and they've done 5 printings of it. So I'm really excited and honored about that particular book, because that was
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I guess that's man. I was reading Harvey Cox's Secular City, and he was talking about how amazing it is to still read his book after 50 years.
Right.
It's like, I'm like, huh? What? Like, wow. I missed him at Harvard. He had just retired, I guess. He retired in 2017, I think.
Yeah, he was the talk of the theological community my last years as bishop, and my first years at Union, Harvey Cox. Yeah.
Yeah, man. We should get him, Perk.
Is he still living?
Yeah, he's like a 90, something like that. Yeah, he's 90.
Oh my
something
goodness.
like that now. Yeah, he's still alive.
Yeah.
He'd probably be like, sure, I ain't doing nothing else. I'm 90. I mean, probably.
Wow.
Great discussion, man. So like, we're still live on Zoom right now. So
Okay.
So they're like watching and going like, like behind the scenes.
They like seeing the behind the scenes stuff.
Oh, I see the behind the scenes.
As long as you don't get the Shane Scott Award. So that means no profanity.
I don't do that. I try not to do that too. There's some things that try me.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the One More Time broadcast brought to you by the Harmony Church, 4113 Telegraph Avenue in the city of Oakland. We're having a great discussion with our guest tonight, Dr. Warren Stewart, who comes to us from the First Institutional Church in Phoenix, Arizona. And we're happy to have him. He's sharing with us tonight. We're having a great dialogue. Kurt, I want to go ahead and let you go ahead and ask your fellow alum some more questions since he did go to Bishop, and we're not going to hold that against him tonight.
Okay. I appreciate it. So Dr. Stewart, I want to move away from theological hubris tonight, and any kind of victor platform. However, you did receive a major award from Morehouse College when it comes to the preaching. I see it here on your resume. I cannot put that on my resume. I don't know if I could, like a credit card, you can put me on your credit line. You know how you do. I did my son like that the other day. But anyway, you know what I'm talking about. Man, talk to us about that. What in the world is that like? And I'm getting ready to buy one of your books. Go ahead and talk about that.
Well, it was an honor. One of my former executive ministers is a Morehouse man. His name is Renard Allen. Matter of fact, he was in the Bay Area with Amos Brown at the Third Baptist Church before he came to us. And so him being a Morehouse man, he connected me with the dean of the Martin Luther King Jr. Chapel. And so they went through the process, and the dean has his formula, I guess, for picking people. And for the year I was picked, I was one of those who was picked to be inducted into the Martin Luther King Board of Preachers. And Howard John Wesley was there, the same class I was, and several other people, and they weren't just Baptists. And so it was an honor. We all flew there, and we heard a message, and we got out honors and a huge plaque. And and to be in that chapel named after Dr. King. So it was a great honor. And also an additional honor, my photo is on the wall with some of the great pulpiteers of the 20th century, Gardner Taylor, Sandy Ray, Bill Jones. I happen to have that there. And so I count that a rare honor. I tell people that's a long way from Coffeyville, Kansas, where I was brought up. Yeah.
That is totally awesome. And as I'm about to buy this book like right now.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
And I do speed read, so you might get some questions on this tonight. So
well, I hope I can.
It's Kindle. Go ahead, Dr. Perkins.
Since you're mentioning the book, let's have a little dialogue about it. Dr. Stewart, tell us about this book right here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Interpreting God's Word in Black Preaching. I did my doctorate under Dr. Henry H. Mitchell, who is 100 and years of age.
Wow.
He's still living. I reached out to him on Facebook for his birthday. He lives with his daughter and son-in-law. He of course he slowed down, but his goal was that whoever studied under him as a doctoral candidate should do something that will contribute to the betterment of the Black church. Mm-hmm. And he said to me, he said, you know, Warren, nothing has been done about hermeneutics in Black preaching. And so I took that, and what I did, my doctoral project, and I received my doctorate from American Baptist Seminary of the West right there in Berkeley, around the corner from you all.
Yes, sir.
In 1982. But what I did, I looked at the published sermons of Dr. Sandy F. Ray, Dr. Manuel Scott Sr., and Dr. William Augustus Jones. And so I went through and I analyzed all of their published sermons. And out of that analysis, I came up with 5 hermeneutical principles that are in Black preaching. And the first one is extremely important, that he or she who reads and interprets the word of God must see God as actively involved in the continuous holistic liberation of humankind. So that whenever we read the Bible, we must see God, Christ, the Holy Spirit as holistic liberators. And so any interpretation that would limit others, that would keep them from being what they were created for, is not the proper hermeneutic. And so I saw in Black preaching that those great pulpiteers of the 20th century, they were about the continuous process of holistic liberation of humankind. And so that was the most foundational principle of the 5. And Dr. James Cone happened to be in Phoenix doing a lecture for the AMEs, because he was an African Methodist Episcopal clergy person. And so because he was my teacher at Union Theological Seminary, I sent him, he came to lecture. I was at the same conference to lecture on my doctoral thesis. And so I just sent him a copy of it. And Dr. Combs wrote back and said, you need to get this published. So I sent it to Judson Press in 1983, 1984. They came out with the first edition, and they printed 5 editions since that time.
Wow.
That's fantastic, man.
That's good. That's good. You mentioned some powerful names, and I want to say a name.
Yes, sir.
When I say a name, I want you to give me your immediate response.
Okay.
Dr. William Augustus Jones.
Prophet.
Dr. Sandy Ray.
Gentle giant.
Dr. Emmanuel Scott Sr.
Oh my God. Wow. What can you... Eloquent.
And then finally, Dr. Harry S. Wright.
Smooth.
Smooth. Doc. Smooth, right?
Now just expound.
Unflappable. Now that's Perk, you gotta understand, man, when you say smooth, only man I know every day, Bishop Collins, Dr. Wright, how you doing? Fine. How are you?
Fine, good.
How you doing? How you?
Good.
Then he'll point his finger at you.
Yeah. Amen.
To make sure like I'm talking to you. Dude.
Yeah.
Can you just kind of, in a nutshell, explain, because it sounds like these guys, these legends, had a great impact on your ministry. Can you just share, the importance that they had at whatever juncture they were, season, how it helped shape you into being not only the preacher, but theologian you are yourself?
Well, thank you. Great question, Pastor Perkins. One of my life's motto verses is Proverbs 16:3. Commit your work to the Lord and your plans will be established. God, if you really do that, and the Hebrew word for commit is galeo, G-L-L would be transliteration, but it means like to roll something in a ball and throw it at the target. So for me, I think about bowling. You have the bowling ball, you have your pins there, and your goal is to knock down all of them, but you have a definite place to aim. So that's what commitment means in the Hebrew there. And so it doesn't mean you're perfect. It doesn't mean that you got it all together, but it means that you're aiming. You're aiming toward the target. And when you do that, for me, God has put me in the right place at the right time. Let me just tell you about a story about Sandy Ray. At Bishop College, I heard about Sandy Ray. And so Sandy Ray was like a adopted brother to Dr. Milton King Curry, the president of Bishop. And he would come every year to the Institute. In my senior year, Dr. Ray, I'd heard so much about Sandy Ray. One, by name Sandy Ray, I thought he was some light complected fella with freckles, Sandy. Dr. Ray, a little short, brown skinned man. And being in Texas, that's the capital of hooping. And I always felt insecure, Pastor Robinson, because I'm not a hooper. I holler, but I'm not a hooper. And so Dr. Ray preached, God help me today, at the Institute, talking about that passage in John about a voice crying in the wilderness. He said, not only was there a voice crying in the wilderness, but the wilderness was crying for a voice. And along came John. Reverend, and he didn't raise his voice. Now, at the end, of course, he celebrated and climaxed. He quoted a hymn. But I mean, and so I said, my goodness. So anyway, so that was the morning session. I went on to class. I was passing by the student union, Curtis. Who was standing by the student union outside by himself?
Oh, yeah.
And I wanted to say thank you, but I was afraid because in those days, unless you were the preacher's kid,
right,
you didn't talk to the giants. And I passed him by, and the Lord said, if you want to thank him, turn around and thank him. I turned around, I said, Dr. Ray, I just want to thank you for that message. He said, well, thank you, young man. He said, and who are you? He asked me who I was.
Right.
And I said, I'm Warren Stewart. He said, what's your classification? And I said, I'm senior, going to graduate in 2 years. He said, well, have you thought about going to seminary? Oh, yes, I'm going to seminary. I said, I've applied for Colgate and Union, but I think I'm going to Colgate. He said, well, those are both good schools. He said, but you know what? I haven't had a young man to work with me for 20 years. And if you choose to come to Union, he said, Colgate's a good school, but Union Theological Seminary is right in the heart of New York City. So you'll be in the midst of the world right there. If you choose to come to Union, call me up. I had thrown the application to Union in the trash because it was too hard. It was that thick. Man, I took that application out to trash.
We filed it.
I filled it out and sent it, and they accepted me. When I got to New York in August of '73, I called his office like he told me to do, and his assistant said, I'll see if he'll speak to you. And he remembered me, and I talked to him on the phone. I said, Dr. Ray, I'm here at Union in New York. He said, well, that's good. He said, let me call Spo. Spo was the nickname that they called Dr. Curry. the president. He said, let me call Spo to check you out. And he called Spo, he called me back. He said, young man, come on over to Cornerstone.
Wow.
And see, Dr. Ray,
Just from saying thank you.
just from saying thank you.
Yeah.
Just from saying thank you. And I tried to get that into the hearts and minds of young preachers. When some people don't have to be nice to you.
Right.
And just say thank you. Remember the parable of the 10 lepers, only one came back. So people remember the one.
Yeah.
And of course, Dr. Ray was vice president of National Baptist Convention, president of Empire Baptist State Convention. He was the play uncle of Martin Luther King Jr. So the 4 years I was at seminary there, everybody who was anybody preached at Cornerstone, came by.
Wow.
Vernon Jordan, Eleanor Holmes Norton, Daddy King, Dr. King's sister, Christine Ferris King, Jesse Jackson. I mean, I could just, so I sat there and was exposed not only to Dr. Ray every Sunday, but exposed to the people that came in and they would, I mean, anybody was anybody. And so man. So that Proverbs 16:3, and just say thank you. I guarantee God will open doors that can never be closed.
Just keep bowling. Keep
on bowling. Right. So we always wonder what that wreath was in front of the student union door. Like, why is this wreath here? It won't go away. Now we know it was where you said thank you to Sandy F. Ray.
Said thank you to Sandy Ray, and the rest is history. Yes,
that is fantastic.
And by being there in New York City, of course, Dr. Cone, the father of Black theology, was one of my professors. Listen here. I took preaching from 4 people. I took preaching from John D. Mangum at Bishop, Gardner Taylor at Union, James Forbes Jr. at Union, and Dr. Henry Mitchell working on my doctorate.
Okay, yeah. Dr. Mitchell was something else, man. I remember he preached in the chapel, and he preached this sermon called If, right? And the text was, if my people who are called by my name.
Sure.
But, you know, in the Henry Mitchell brilliance.
Right.
He didn't even touch if, right? And when he got to his close, because, you know, he wasn't a hooper either, right? But he be doing that thing. And he said, blah, 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 if. And went sat down. The chapel was quiet for about 10 seconds. Then all of a sudden, this one lady said, thank you. And man, that was it. That was it, dude. The whole, you know, you had those sermons you hear that week.
Right.
It was always one sermon per at the Institute that you would hear that week.
There
Carp Collins.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Is that the chapel?
That's it, man. Where you get that from?
That's the chapel.
Man, I'm a journalist.
You on Paul Quinn's website?
No, I'm a journalist. I do my stuff.
Yes, I'm not laughing.
Got to do my work.
Journalist.
You do.
I support you, my brother.
Yes, sir.
That's working right there.
And it grieved me that Bishop College closed because there was no place west of the Mississippi,
right,
that prepared Black Baptist preachers like Bishop. I don't know if there was a place east of the Mississippi, because Morehouse brags about building leaders, not preachers. Now, the only one who come closer would probably be Virginia Union School of Theology on the East Coast.
Samuel Proctor.
But nobody rivaled Bishop College. And a matter of fact, Manuel Scott Sr. was doing a revival in my hometown of Coffeyville the week before I preached my trial sermon. And the preachers who were mentoring me took me to him at the revival. And they said, Dr. Scott, this young man gonna preach his trial sermon Sunday night. Never forget what he told me. He said, if you're serious about preaching, go to Bishop College. I had never heard of Bishop College. But Manuel Scott Sr. told me as a 17-year-old boy, if you're serious about preaching, go to Bishop. So I kept it in my mind. I went to community college in Coffeyville and transferred and went to Bishop College, and the rest is history.
Wow. Wow. That is fantastic, man. That is fantastic. Perk, you've heard Dr. Scott Sr., right? Preach.
I've heard tapes of him. Yeah.
Oh, really? So I heard him one night at St. John in Dallas. It was my first time ever. I mean, Bishop College, and I understand what you say about the preaching piece, because Bishop College is a first for everything that's young and preaching in your ministry. The first time I heard Donna Parson, right? The first time I heard A. Lewis Patterson. First time I heard Manuel Scott Sr.,
Yep.
right? First time I heard S.M. Wright. First time I heard John Mangrum. People talk about Dr. Mangrum, man, but Dr. Mangrum would come in class with a sermon, doc, and man, we would be on the floor. But you talk about the learning part at Bishop, right? You talk about Christian doctrine. I come to understand that we were reading on the undergraduate level, John McQuarrie, and they were teaching John McQuarrie, I think, at Yale Divinity School.
Many of the textbooks that I took in the religion for the philosophy department at Bishop College were the introductory texts at Union Theological Seminary. So I was ahead of all of the first year students at seminary,
right,
simply by going to Bishop. L. Harold DeWolf has a book, one volume about theology. I mean, Dr. Mangrum taught me that. The church history books. I mean, these were taught at Bishop, and they were the introductory classes in seminary.
Yeah. And people talk about the other side of Bishop a lot, but there's a lot of very, very smart guys, that went to Bishop. I mean, thinkers. Jesse Jackson came on campus one time and was like, y'all need to go to Morehouse, right?
Oh.
Yeah, he said that, because all y'all want to do at Bishop is hoop. That's what he said, man.
I love Jesse. He's my elder brother.
He said it.
Well, anyway, let's move on.
Oh, that's funny. That was on the radio, KEST.
Let's move on.
AM. We said it. Dr. Perkins.
That picture that I showed you, what was the first? Now you heard a lot of messages at in chapel. What was one of your favorites? One that you are not favorite was one that you just immediately, when you see that picture, that message pops up.
Believe it or not, J.H. Jackson.
Wow.
J.H. Jackson, the 29-year president, dictator of the National Baptist Convention USA Incorporated, was known as a dictator, of the convention. But when he was defeated, and I was a part of the team that helped defeat him. I was with the Jemison team, and we defeated him in 1982 in Miami. But he continued to pastor Olivet in Chicago, and Dr. Curry invited him for one of the institutes. Doctor, that Negro, J.H. Jackson.
Wow.
And he's not a hooper, but he had a very high tenor voice. And you can find it on YouTube. He would not come down from the cross. Reverend, he was killing us by repetition. And what stopped him, I guess his hand hit the microphone, and he was killing us. And when he hit the microphone, it dropped. He turned around and sat down.
Wow.
Reverend,
wow.
but maybe that was to our benefit, because we would
he was just like the whole front row was just like on the floor, right?
We would have been dead. But that Negro, my God, he was a preacher.
Yeah.
Take all that other stuff he did, but he was a preacher and orator. My God. So when I saw, that's the one message I remember seeing him. And I was so angry at that microphone.
Oh, that's funny, man.
I was angry at that because, Doc, he was killing us. Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's been a lot of murder up in there, dude.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It's good to see that, man. That's a nice picture, Perk. Thanks for bringing that up. Thanks for bringing that up.
We got 3 minutes left. Kurt, I'm gonna let you have final words, and then we'll let Dr. Stewart give some closing words of encouragement to our listeners.
Yes, sir.
Before we go off the air.
You want me to say something?
Sure, go ahead.
Oh, sure. All right. All right. Well, listen, God bless you. It's just been great being here again. I'm Robin, hanging out with Batman. You know, it's all good. Feeding this Wednesday, 8 a.m., 2680 64th Avenue. Faith Church, still doing it. All right. Be there 8 o'clock, 8 a.m., 2680 64th Avenue. If you know of anybody that needs food, send them there. We got plenty. Dr. Stewart, love you, man. Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
We're not done. I don't want you to think we're done. We still have a little bit more time. We just closing off the radio show, but I just want you to leave an encouraging word with the listeners on the radio before we go straight to Facebook.
Well, first, I want to thank you all again. Keep doing what you're doing. You are spreading the good news. So keep doing what you're doing. So I commend you. Emmanuel, God is with us. Yeah. Let's reveal Emmanuel to everyone in every situation, everywhere we go this Christmas season. No matter what it looks like, no matter how much the crisis is, Emmanuel, God is with us. Bless you.
Amen.
Well, family and friends, we thank you for another wonderful show. And this has been the One More Time broadcast brought to you by the Harmony Church, 4113 Telegraph Avenue in the city of Oakland. And we pray that you've been blessed from hearing from our friend and brother, Dr. Warren Stewart from the First Institutional Church. When this COVID is over and we're able to go about our daily affairs and get on planes and trains and automobiles again, if you're ever in the great city of Phoenix, state of Arizona, stop by to one of those two services, and I'm sure you'll be blessed to sit at his feet and hear. He's an awesome preacher, by the way, also. So again, we hope you'll show us again on next week. We have 2 more Sundays before we close out the year, and we pray that you'll be our guest on next Sunday. And we have something special coming up for you on 4th Sunday, so be sure you're with us next Sunday so we can share what it is. So thank you for your time. I hope you had a blessed time. That's my time. We'll see y'all next time. One More Time broadcast. We're out.
This broadcast is sponsored by the Harmony Missionary Baptist Church, located at...
All right, now we're on the Perk and Kirk show.
This is like switch.
The after show.
After show.
Oh, yeah.
Where we take questions from the Facebook audience. I already have one question that is waiting
to put it up.
Waiting on you. One question says, how do you feel regarding the vaccine the FDA has approved? Will you take part in getting the vaccination?
Well, one, I'm very thankful. And in our worship services today, we praise the Lord that the vaccine was being sent out across this nation over this weekend, going to healthcare workers first and people in rehab. I trust the scientists and the doctors. Nothing is perfect. And this is called the novel coronavirus. So the vaccine is a novel vaccine. And so anything new is going to have some things worked out, but something is better than nothing. And so the Arizona Department of Health Services reached out to us, speaking of this last week, and they said they wanted to make sure that people of color, particularly the African-American communities, would be in the line to receive the vaccines. And they said that the African-American clergy are still the most trusted voice in the Black community. Will you partner with us to get the word out about the vaccine. And when it finally comes, will you partner with us on seeing that those who want to take it will be able to get it? And our group, we represent over 100 and some clergy in the Valley of the Sun. And we said we want to partner with the Arizona Department of Health Services. So we will be, one, getting information out about it so people can make their own decision. I mean, we're not going to tell people what to do, but we're going to put the information out there. And once it's out there, if it's sufficient enough, and will I take it? Sure, I will take it. I will take it. I'll try to be an example. I'll be an example. I'll be a leader. I'll lead by example. Yes, sir.
Great. I think that's a great answer to the question. Something we haven't touched upon, Dr. Stewart, and I know the type of person that you are from having the one-on-one that I had with you for a couple of days, the privilege of driving you around. This year has been one heck of a year of seeing how wicked and how broke our government has been, and not just in ways of social justice, but even within this democracy, this voting. I mean, it's like we've been hit from different angles at the same time. You say, who hit you, you know?
Sure.
And I want to know how have you dealt with social injustice in Arizona, knowing that you are one of the pillars, you're one of the voices there. And I do know that you definitely had to have some type of voice in Arizona when it came time to that King movement.
Yes, sir.
I would love for you to touch on that just a little bit and kind of touch on where you are or where the city is with the social injustice that has gone on and how it's blatantly been shown within just 2020.
First of all, I'm angry. I'm very angry. 401 years, systemic racism been treating people of color in this land less than humane. Mm-hmm. I wrote in an article a few years ago, it was a Southern Baptist journal, I believe it was Southern Baptist, but my opening remarks dealt with that when I get to heaven, after I see Jesus and the rest of them, I need to ask God one question. Why did you let white people, white supremacy, reign for so long on the earth? I'm gonna be glad to be there. But I need to ask him that, and thank God we'll be changed, because I don't know if I'd want to spend eternity with some of the people I've seen who are racist and discriminatory. So the anger is righteous indignation. So I channel that anger into what can we do to come up with solutions. Mm-hmm. I'm part of a group that came up with the Arizona African American Agenda, dealing with affordable and available health care, economic development, including affordable housing, political equity, community policing and criminal justice reform, and equitable public education. We present that agenda to all of those running for office, to our governors, to our state, local people. Respond to our agenda. And if you see by our agenda, we don't want anything more than what you want. You just have shortchanged us continuously. So I was just on a Zoom call with some Mormon leaders yesterday, and they want to know how they can help after the George Floyd murder. and bless their hearts. They came up with some examples of how they've been helping around the nation. They said, we helped some Black people spruce up the Black graveyard, Black cemetery. I told them we didn't have a Black cemetery in Phoenix. In closing, I told him, I said, look, thank you for you want to partner with us. I said, there's two prongs. One, the first prong is practical partnerships, like you brought up the cemetery. We don't have a cemetery here, but they also brought up, instead of King Day, instead of a march, having a day of service, which is good. But I said the other piece is systemic change. I said, because you all, many of the state legislatures who have overturned or not heard any of our criminal justice reform, any equitable public education legislation, many of those are your brothers and your sisters. And one of them said, well, we work through the back channel. We don't want to be up front. I said, well, you need to work through the back channel and tell some of your brothers and sisters, say, Leslie, to stop overturning or not allowing criminal justice reform, equitable public education, those legislative acts like that. Stop killing those in the committee. That's systemic change, and that'll make where we don't have to have you coming to help us clean up the graveyard or do a day of service. So this whole systemic thing. Dr. James Forbes said this, never forget it, in teaching us to preach union. He said, when you get out of seminary or start preaching, you don't really have a theme for your preaching. But he said, the longer you preach, you can put all your messages in a sifter, and what will come out will be the theme of your preaching over the years. Mine is Jesus and justice, evangelism and emancipation. We are called to share the good news with people that they might have life in its fullness down here and life ever after. That's evangelism. But we are also called to emancipate people, to set people free from whatever limits them from fulfilling the purpose for which God has created them. So you can't have one or the other. It's what I call the E&E connection, evangelism and emancipation. And over the last few years, I've summed it up, Jesus and justice. And my scriptural foundation, Luke 4, verse 16 through 21. Jesus launched his ministry, quoting the prophet Isaiah.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Spirit of the Lord. Yeah. Well, that leads me into my next question that I ask every guest that we've had.
Okay.
And we'll see. I don't know. I don't know, Kurt. He may get it because he was about ready to come through this TV and hit somebody.
If you ask him this, you might make him mad. I just want you to know, but go ahead, ask him anyway.
Yeah, I think. Well, he already close to it. I'm glad I'm his friend. I wish I went to Bishop because I knew I'd be definitely a good blue brother. I'd be safe, but it's good though. What is your feeling? How do you feel about the preacher pastor that has this? And some say we don't have a platform. I do not agree with that. I think that we have a platform. Every Sunday, the pastor preacher has a platform that most people don't have to share conviction of Christ and to persuade and convict, et cetera, et cetera. How do you feel about the preacher pastor that has been quiet and has not said a word about social justice and will not even preach or mention social justice?
They're going to have to stand before judgment. They're going to have to give account of that.
I told
They're
you.
going to give account of that. If you look through the Bible from Genesis to Revelation, Doc, Jesus and justice is all the way through it. It's the spiritual DNA of the kingdom of God. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And that is one of the challenges, because the Black church has left who we are as a pastoral, prophetic mouthpiece and not just a speaker of the word, but a doer also. We bought into the health and wealth prosperity gospel and having a bigger house, bigger car, bigger bank account.
Stewart.
That stuff is going to burn in hell.
Oh, Stewart.
Burn in hell.
Stewart.
Go ahead, Kurt.
So
Lord Jesus.
So I'm looking at a little piece of this book, right? You know, and I'm going to read it, right? So you're there, you say you're at home, and I want to get back to this burn in hell piece because I'm serious, man. I swear to God, because listen, man, I look at these, my wife looks at these shows, right? You know, you can look at anything and BET, you know, whatever. And we got pastors doing celebrity stuff on shows. All right. You know what I mean? I want to get back to that in a second. Let's get to the book, right? You talk about you're at home, you get this call from Governor Babbitt.
Yeah.
Was that the start of, well, it wasn't the start of it, but it seems like with that call, it seemed like you had some momentum moving forward against the staunchiness of Arizona's racial backdrop.
Yeah, well, on the whole King Holiday piece, Arizona had been trying to pass, and it had been defeated only by a couple of votes, but it was still defeated. And so after the last defeat in May of 1986, Governor Babbitt called me at home. I was in my study preparing my message. He said, Warren, and I hate when the white leaders call us by first name. I didn't give him permission.
It's right here in the book. You say that.
I hate that.
There.
I hate that. You're not my friend. Don't call me by my first name.
Well, why do you think? Okay, all right. Okay.
But anyway, and he said, I think we can do this. I said, do you think you can? He said, I want to declare it from the pulpit of First and True Baptist Church. He came to our early service, May 18, 1986, and he did. But he said something prophetic. He said, now I'm going to sign this, but y'all going to have to fight for this. And we didn't realize then what he really meant. Mm-hmm. And then we had that fluke election where Governor Meekum, a very right-wing conservative, won in the three-way race, and he rescinded the holiday. But I mentioned this to somebody recently. I didn't plan on being the leader of that. Some community leaders, lay women, said, can we meet at your church on a Sunday afternoon to talk about how we can address the King holiday since they've defeated it again? And I said, go ahead, yes. I said, but look, I got to take my family out to dinner. I preached twice on a Sunday, but we need you to come by. So I went and I was mad. I came back to my own fellowship hall. I was mad. I dropped my family off and I walked in the door. They said, there's our leader, Pastor Stewart. That's how I became the leader of the King holiday fight. I was mad. Found you. I didn't want to be there.
Yeah. That was your Zeitgeist moment for that.
Proverbs 16:3.
16:3. There.
It found you, man. Okay, so do you think that culturally, after this pandemic, that we should look at some things differently when it comes to Black folks? And Pastor Perkins, he asked that question, right?
Sure.
And believe it or not, guys have gotten on this show and have said, well, it kind of depends on who you're preaching to, right?
Look at they have. Dude. They have. I can't. We kid you not. They have.
They have, man. You'd be surprised, man. You'd be surprised. What do you think that we have to do culturally right now to get ourselves ready to come back and be vibrant and alive in the church, Black church?
Well, we can't come back doing church like we've been doing it.
Okay.
Say that.
We have to be strategic as we come into what I call the new now, not the new normal. I don't like the word normal. Nothing is normal anymore, but the new now. And so that's in any context, anytime. We have to be strategic in ushering in the kingdom of God. What the priorities of Jesus Christ were should become our priority. Dr. William J. Shaw talks about, I never forget, I heard him preach a sermon years ago, preaching, teaching, and healing.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Jesus did. And so that's, if that was a priority for Jesus, y'all, that needs to be a priority for every preacher, every church. And if the white church ain't gonna do it, if the other church, the black church got to do it. I have said this in the past before. Because the black church has a heritage, has a rich heritage of our ancestors from the motherland, as well as those who fought against slavery here, because we have a rich heritage, but also we have a history of harassment for who we are. So we know what it means to be on the top, looking back at our heritage. Mm-hmm. The first human beings were black. So we started it all. But if we take our harassment, we know what it means to be dogged out and to be kicked and at the bottom. If we can get our act together and come up with a theology, come up with a practicum of both our heritage and harassment, we will lead the world to justice.
Got it.
But we got to get it together first.
Do you think that part of that getting it together is the denominational work just coming to a point to say we need to work together, we're better together than we are apart?
Yeah. You know, and I say this not as a source of pride, but for years, I was asked to run for the president of the National Baptist Convention. I mean, going back to when, I guess, not when after Jemison termed out, and then certainly after Lyons messed up. The last time I visited Dr. Gardner Taylor, well, the second to last time I visited him in his home in Raleigh, which was maybe 10 years ago. And I went by to see him, and I said, Dr. Taylor, guys have been asking me around the country, would you run? Would you run? I said, what do you think? He said, Warren, he said, I believe that denominationalism is going the way of the dinosaur.
Wow. Wow.
And is he not prophetic?
Very much so. He's prophetic.
Yeah.
Was he not prophetic? And this was before COVID.
Right.
I mean, it's bad when I go to walk around the convention, some of those guys say, here's one of our young leaders.
Well, Doc, you just look young, man.
Man. And
you got a lot of life in you, man. You're right. I mean, listen at you right now. You're like, boom, boom, sticking and moving, jabbing. You ain't like got no snail juice on you, man. You know, so, it's a blessing,
I love
man.
what the Lord has called me to do. I get up every morning loving it.
Yeah.
I love it. I love pastoring. I love preaching. I love protesting. I love bringing about change.
I love protesting. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I've had the privilege within the last 20 years or so, definitely within the last 10 recently, to drive some of the most prominent premier pastors in our day. By far, Dr. Stewart has been one of my best trips. And we only had about 2 days.
I know. It was just 2 days.
It was rich.
Yeah.
And I know I was supposed to stay in contact to get something from you. I think it was Something about
what was that? Something you
it
was.
was either Harriet Wright or Sandy Ray. It was some work from
It was something with Sandy Ray. Yeah, yeah.
Right. Yeah. But I can honestly say a lot of guys say, Perk, how you know so many people? And I hope some young preachers are watching and listening, pastors. So how you know so many people? I said, man, I used to get called the water boy. I used to get called the flunky. I used to get called the little geek flunky for carrying the Bibles, carrying the coats. But yet I can call a Dr. Warren Stewart and he can say, sure, I'll come be on your show.
Yeah.
I can call a Nathan Johnson. Sure, I'll come be on your show. And the list goes on and on. And to the young preacher that's listening, man, if you're not going to be a servant,
Right.
if you don't have a servant mentality, if you're not willing to serve, you can forget about getting on the big stage or anything. And not that I do it for that, but some of the best relationships I've had. One of my best friends, Marvin Wiley, came from driving for 6 days. You know, my godfather, after my dad passed away. I mean, from having a servant mentality, and some people don't know what you went through to get what you got.
No,
Just want what you have, and I appreciate your zeal, your excitement, and just the love that you have for what you do, but how you embrace younger preachers and pastors, because some guys don't.
Yeah.
Just don't.
Oh yeah. I mean, unless you that special child of some great preacher, like that's probably I had a bishop. I mean, my daddy wasn't a preacher, my mama wasn't. I mean, so I didn't have the pedigree of a E.K. Bailey or Stephen Thurston.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just this little nigga. Excuse me.
He got it.
I'm just a little nigga from Kansas. Excuse me. I'm sorry.
That's all right, Doc.
This is raw and uncut, so you fine.
This is the after party, man.
Okay.
But you still got the Shane Scott Award for that one, though, dude. So.
Oh Lord.
So Shane, we got to get a picture of Shane on a little trophy or something, dude.
We got to sit here.
We still getting this together, Doc. We still getting this together.
Well, y'all doing a great job, man. You're doing a great
job. We appreciate that. So your people are buying your book right now. There's a lady, Sister West, Marilyn West. I just told her where I bought the book, and she's gonna get ready to go buy the book.
Yes,
right now. And we've actually, Pastor Perkins, actually have done that for some guys. And we want to do it, and we want people to be blessed by it.
We
don't get no consignment for that. It's like, no, it's all good.
Matter of fact, prayerfully at the end of the year, because we've only been doing this since the pandemic, but we're gonna call it the pandemic library, because we've had so many guys come on that were authors, and then they recommend books also. So there's a library that's being made.
Oh, that's great.
Just from each telecast,
Yeah.
I think it'll be, we call it the pandemic library.
Oh, amen.
Hey man, listen, I'm telling you, pastors, like I have, so I've gotten a certificate from MIT in social banking because of this pandemic. I've gotten a certificate from Harvard. I took a class on rhetoric, right? Because of this pandemic. And I'm finishing up a class from the University of Michigan on writing grants, and because of this pandemic. I told my wife today, it's like, I had my own little Christmas fund because, members give me, money, like love offerings. Right. And I just been putting it in a little cigar box, right?
Right.
And man, I opened that thing up yesterday morning. I was like, well, I'm gonna go buy me some toys for my grandkids and some clothes. And I told my wife today, it's like, even this thing is over, I still ain't going nowhere. I'm still staying at home. We want to invite you to this lunch. No, I'll just zoom myself in. I save my gas. I ain't that hungry.
I have one more that I'm done.
Sure.
You made a statement that I guess something to the church will never be the same. Can you just touch on the church that says, I don't care what this pandemic has done. When I go back, I'm going back doing the same stuff that we used to do. And we've been on this pandemic almost 10 months.
Yeah.
And some of the things that we haven't done in 10 months, we don't need to ever do again. We need to leave it where it is.
Very much so. I mean, yeah, we found out what is really essential and what has been accessories. And so we should stick with that which is essential, that you know, and the verse, the passage I used in March was the one about I think it's Acts chapter 8, when the church was scattered. And I said, thank God for the church scattered. And the only way that the gospel got out of Jerusalem was persecution.
Yeah, that's right. That's
and
right.
When the persecution came, they were forced to flee.
Right.
And they took the good news with them everywhere they went.
Right.
And so, you know, people say as long as the church has been closed. No, the church has not been closed. The church buildings have had their doors closed, but the opportunities for the gospel have been wide open, and people are reaching more people. Look at you all. You're reaching more people virtually than you could ever imagine reaching just inside of our sanctuary. Absolutely. And another thing I said during Easter, I don't care, mega church pastor, storefront pastor, traditional, contemporary, we all been preaching to empty churches.
Yeah.
I don't care how big your sanctuary is. This COVID-19 was the great equalizer.
Right.
Yeah.
Doc Ralph West is preaching to an empty church.
Wow. Wow.
And Bishop Apostle Doolittle with 10 members is preaching to an empty church.
Yes, sir.
We all on the sick and shut in list.
Right. Man, well, I might be sick, but it's something about my spirit that ain't shut in, man. I'm telling you, it's like a whole bunch of opportunities are coming, man, like this right here. This is like, so Pastor Dr. Stewart Warren H. Sr., right? What is your take on resources and space as we relook at our buildings?
I was just telling, I think my wife, as we were driving in the car yesterday, we got all these empty buildings. Just don't talk about downtown, but all the church buildings, they've been sitting empty for 9 months. We gotta find some way to transform them into being functional. Yeah. When this is over, this throughout the window, the concept of building these huge mega churches to seat thousands of people on Sunday morning.
Wow.
I mean, I look when I drive on the campus of First Institutional, then sitting there empty since March.
Wow.
Right.
I mean, other than, you know, we now have the Sunday services. Thank God our social services, I mean, we still feed the hungry, clothe the naked.
Yeah.
And in a board retreat yesterday, I told my nonprofit, Physical Family Service, I said, thank you, because when the offices were shut down, when the sanctuary was shut down, FIBCO stayed open. You kept this church open, feeding the hungry, giving them clothes, providing food boxes. Y'all kept us in business. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, we have to rethink all of this whole church stuff.
Mm-hmm. How do you think we can, well, obviously we have to, before we rethink the space on the corner, right? Yeah. We got to rethink the space in our head. How do you think we should move towards that construct? I guess I'm saying this. Mother Jones, we're going to use a portion of the sanctuary for social services Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Okay, which means we got to get rid of the pews and put some stuff on wheels in there to do that, right? Mother Jones says, that's the church house, right? So how do we start to work on that before we start to work on the physical space itself?
Teach and preach the word of God. Teach from the major and minor prophets. Teach from Jesus Christ. Jesus didn't have no church building.
Nope.
He changed the world. Jesus didn't have no church building. And look what he did. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. And you know, something else I tell people, see, the problem we've had in the last 30 years in the Black church, well, in all churches in the USA, and some even in Africa, our role model is no longer Jesus, it's celebrities.
My God.
Jesus was popular, but he wasn't a celebrity.
He wasn't a celebrity.
Jesus was not a celebrity. He was popular. People came through him forever. The masses were, but he was not a celebrity because he was down with the people, touching. And so we preachers gotta be delivered, exercised from the celebrity demonic mentality.
So Dr. Stewart, you mean to tell me you don't have a 20 people entourage on private jet and all that stuff?
No, so I tell you a story about that. I tell you a story about that.
Thank you.
You know, I had my armor bearers, you know, people, and I didn't ask for it. So they when I drive up on Sunday morning, they run out to the car and get my briefcase. Well, one of them was at church when I drove up Tuesday morning, 11 o'clock, and he didn't even come near me to get my briefcase. So he was just an armor bearer for Sunday.
Oh, okay.
It was just it's for show.
You didn't know his office hours.
that stuff is what? That stuff is for show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That stuff is for show.
Like my Black entourage.
Yeah, I remember my first church I pastored in San Francisco. I did 12 years there. Mm-hmm. And a guy came and preached for me, and he had his men in black with him. And I just hate for people to stand in my office when I got chairs you can sit in. And they just kept standing. I say, hey man, y'all can sit down. You know, y'all can sit down. No, we fine. We just here with the pastor. I said, well, hey, ain't nothing gonna happen to the pastor. Ain't nothing gonna happen to me. And so I try to be nice, and you know, they kept brushing me off and standing up. So I'm from Compton. So I try to keep it suppressed, but it started rising. What? So finally I said, hey bro, if your boys ain't gonna sit down, they got to get the hell out of my office because I don't like nobody standing up around me.
I know that's right.
I got chairs. Y'all can sit down, bro. Ain't nothing gonna happen in here. Nobody.
No, Doc, you look, man, you got like hybrid, like Stewart said, hybrid. They had that Nation of Islam Baptist hybrid going.
But he right though. We have some guys though. I preached a citywide with some preachers, actually it was this year. And before we can get to the restaurant to eat, one of the preachers was like, how many views did I get? How many views? I mean, that celebrity, what you talking about, Doc, is real. Like they when they wake up in the morning, they on social media and they live for that. Who's following me? Who's watching me? How many numbers I got? How many views I got? How many, and that stuff, it's a seasonal thing. And they can love you today, and by the night, you ain't gonna have no followers, depending on what you do. Mm-hmm. That's the code. I just wish that most young preachers and pastors wouldn't get caught up in it, because you lose so much time. Focusing on the wrong thing. And by the time you realize what has happened, you're like, man, I could have been doing this or doing that, or sitting at the feet of somebody that can make me. I grew up in a generation where when you were in the room with pastors and you was an associate, you didn't get it. You don't talk. No.
You sat there and listen and learn. That's what I would do. Dr. Ray would have those people, and I would be sitting in his office. I would just, he said, take them downstairs. I remember the time Jesse Jackson came to preach, and he had his armor bearer with him, and his armor bearer at the time, Jesse Jackson had a big fro. So I took the armor bearer and Jesse up to the office. And so Dr. Jackson had the guy, fluffing his fro out and all that kind of stuff. But I just sat there and watched. I didn't say anything.
Okay. But, Dr. Stewart, don't you think that this culture, though, this westernized culture, has created that kind of presence, in ministry, TV evangelism or TV, just itself. We had a discussion about the Vietnam War the other day.
And even the TV evangelists model themselves after secular celebrities.
Okay.
And so then we preachers model ourselves after clergy celebrities, and so, I got to have so many armor bearers, and I got to have, I'll never forget, you get lists of people, you invite somebody to preach, and these are the requirements, first class ticket for me and a coach for my sister.
I don't fly.
Stretch limousine, pick me up, presidential suite, unopened bottle of water. All that kind of foolishness.
And what do you think that has left us? What has been the ravages of?
We become a mockery. The people in the community laugh at us. They laugh at us. So we made a mockery of what Jesus Christ stands for. Like I said, he was popular, but he wasn't a celebrity.
What can we do to reshape that identity? What do we need to do to reshape that?
Change our role models. Stop looking at T.D. Jakes and Creflo Dollar and all the big name people, and start looking and modeling after Jesus Christ.
He just got in trouble, Perk, for saying that. But Warren Stewart can say that.
Hey, I would knock somebody over, Warren Stewart. I'll knock them the hell out. Somebody say something crazy about Warren Stewart to me.
Got another boy. We getting all kinds of Shane Scott awards tonight.
I don't care who offended. Come holler at me for it. Look, you talking about the armor bearer. I'm gonna be Peter. I'm gonna cut an ear off for Warren Stewart. I'm telling you that right now.
Doc, you're safe in the Bay.
That's my dude right there, man.
You're safe in the Bay, man.
Yeah. Well, man, Dr. Stewart, we definitely appreciate your time. You giving us
I heard the bell ring.
2 hours, and I appreciate
I've enjoyed this thing, and perfect timing, because like I said, I don't recover like I used to from preaching twice. So I didn't have to preach today because I had one of our assistants to preach, and so the timing was perfect, and I hope I've been a blessing.
Oh man, you have, man. It's got my notes right here, brother.
We take them every week.
Man, I'm telling you, man, we got to put our notes together, man. This is going to be this is it. This is
well. Cool. I'm looking for that pandemic library.
Listen, we brother. We go definitely work on that. This is gonna be a part of it for sure.
Who is that on the cover?
I can't remember his name, but he used to be over the international ministries of American Baptist churches. He's retired now.
Okay.
But yeah.
I was gonna say, it's like, that ain't died.
No, they did that without my permission, but I guess after you print it 5 times, they no longer need my permission.
Right. No, they do that, man. I have James Combs' last book, said I wasn't gonna tell nobody.
Yeah.
And Dr. West gave it to me, right? And they had him in the book. He didn't even know. Right. He's all in the introduction because he preached his eulogy, right?
Right.
Yeah, so they do that all the time, man.
Yeah.
This publishing game is cold, man. I learned the hard way. I had to tell a cat, look, I wrote that book. If you put it back on Amazon again, I'm calling a lawyer.
Amen.
Maybe that's how good it was. I don't know. But
look, y'all have a blessed Christmas, and let's stay in touch, okay?
For sure.
Looking forward to it, man.
I'm gonna call you about that Harry S. Wright stuff for sure. Give our regards to your wife. We pray she's still feeling better.
She's doing better. She hooked me up to get me on this.
I saw her real quick.
Wow, that's cool.
I don't know all that technical stuff. So I said, come in, will you please help me here?
Tell him we
All right,
said
bless
hello.
y'all, man.
All right.
Bye.
God
you.
bless, bro. Peace. All right. Great show.
To our listening audience that's still listening, we have a surprise for you coming up.
Uh-oh.
The last show of the year is what's going to be, and this will be televised live from the Harmony Fellowship Hall. And so we'll telecast it live. It won't just be on the radio, but it'll be like live with camera and everything. 2 cameras up, and we'll be on Facebook, YouTube, all the platforms, and we go end the year out with a bang. Real Talk meets one more time, and the Perk and Kurt show. So it'll be good that Sunday night.
Be there. I got Marty Peters coming on.
It would have been nice if we could have had a listening audience, but due to the COVID, we can't do that.
Well, you know what? That's good for the future.
Yeah, I mean that would be great. Yeah, that would be cool
You know?
to make it like a for real show, huh?
Yeah, man. You know, we gotta redo this thing, man.
That's right. Well, bro, it's been real. I'll see you in a couple of days.
Yes, and I gotta be. You know, we have so this show coming up on the other show. We have
We can say it now.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, man. I'm tripping so hard on the Perk and Kurt show. We got Dr. A.B. Sutton Jr., senior pastor of the Living Stone Church in Birmingham, Alabama, will be our guest on next Sunday at 3 p.m.
Yeah, I will sleep. I kind of missed the show today.
I was wasting my time looking at the Raiders lose to the Colts, so that's what I get.
I will sleep. So, but
Keely gonna send us. She gonna send us a intro, man. Did you see the service tape from Sabrina Saunders?
I didn't see the tape, but I did get.
Dude, we're like everywhere, bro. We're like all over everywhere. We're like
I did hear
FM, AM. So this was going to be on KCRT. This public service announcement.
I heard it was on KBLX also, but
yeah, it was. I heard it on KBLX. I did.
Yeah. To our listening audience, we come on at 3:00 on Gospel 1190 AM, gospel1190.com from 3 to 4 every Sunday, where we keep it clear. That's the Perk and Kurt show. You can catch us on Facebook, catch us on Instagram, and we do have a YouTube, Perk and Kurt. So you can
YouTube
also.
That's it. That's what's up everywhere.
Yeah,
all at the same time
on all the platforms.
Crazy.
All right,
I
bro.
love it, man. Yes. I love you, man. Have a great evening. Thanks a lot.